He fears no feather to ruffle and honestly believes he is the one chosen to lead America to the future. Texas Senator Ted Cruz holds firm to his beliefs as we go one-on-one with the Republican candidate for president. I'm Ed Berliner. Let's add the arena and a celebration of Earth Day you won't see or experience anywhere else. This is MidPoint.
I believe in you. I believe in the power of millions of courageous conservatives rising up to reignite the promise of America. And that is why today I am announcing that I'm running for President of the United States.
The first Republican to announce for the White House this year, Ted Cruz, is not considered by many of the experts as a serious contender, something no one has told the senator and something he would discount quickly and toss aside like old cow chips. Sitting across from Ted Cruz in our exclusive Newsmax one-on-one, it's easy to hear the message he believes will carry him to the White House. One of a deeply religious man who is convinced the electorate of any stripe can trust him.
Senator, it is a crowded field for the Republicans this year. So what is it the voters want to know makes you the absolute best candidate? Why should they vote for you?
Well, I think our country's in crisis right now, and people are looking for a strong leader who will turn things around. And they're tired of candidates who've blown smoke.
You just mentioned blowing smoke. Politicians love to do it on a regular basis. They do it every time. So how do you then convince the people that Ted Cruz is the guy who's not blowing smoke at them?
Well, you know, that's a question that comes up all the time. I remember I was having dinner with a small group in Iowa, and a man looked at me and said, "How can we trust you?" And that may be right at the heart of the question primary voters are going to ask of every candidate. And my response was, you know, you shouldn't trust me or any candidate. You should say to every candidate, show me. You say you believe these principles. Show me. When have you stood up and fought for them? When have you bled for them? And what have you accomplished? As the scriptures say, you shall know them by their fruits. And if you think of the dozen biggest fights the last couple of years, whether it was standing up and leading the fight to stop Obamacare, or standing up to stop the debt and the debt ceiling that's bankrupting our kids and grandkids, or standing up to stop President Obama's unconstitutional executive amnesty, or standing up to defend the First Amendment, our free speech, our religious liberty, or the Second Amendment, or the Fourth and Fifth Amendments and our privacy, or the 10th Amendment and stopping Common Core, standing up to defend life and marriage, or standing up to defend Israel, or standing up to stop Iran from getting nuclear weapons. The test I think primary voters are going to apply, if you look at the field, there are a lot of very good people, governors, senators in the race. But if you think of those dozen or so fights, and you ask how many of those have they stood up and led on, for most of the field it's a fairly short list. And what I've tried to do in the time I've been in the Senate is on every one of those major battles, stand and lead the fight. Stand with the people, stand with courageous conservatives who want to turn our country around. And I think that's what the primary voters are looking for.
You mentioned scriptures a couple of moments ago. You are very evangelical. You are known as the evangelical candidate. You've come from that family. To get elected in this country, how are you going to get elected to convince Democrats and people who are non-evangelical, those who see you way out on the right, how are you going to bring them back in to vote for you when you know they don't always agree with you?
Well, I'm a Christian. My faith is a very important part of who I am, and it's a very important part of who this country is. America was founded on Judeo-Christian values. You know, I often, when I'm on the stump, will invoke, I don't know if you ever saw the movie The Usual Suspects.
Oh, yeah.
There's a line in that movie. The greatest trick the devil ever played was to convince the world he didn't exist. And I suggest there's a corollary, that the greatest trick the left ever played was to convince conservatives that America doesn't share our values. America's fundamentally a center-right country. And if you look at the values I'm running on, live within your means, don't bankrupt our kids and grandkids, follow the Constitution. Those are basic common sense. It's only in Washington, D.C. that those are considered radical or extreme. We could go to any state in the Union. We could go to the bluest state in the Union, get a room of 100 people, Republicans, Democrats, Independents, Libertarians, and most of them would agree with those common sense propositions. That's what we've got to get back to, because it's what career politicians in Washington have forgotten as the basic values America was founded on.
Then how do you convince them? Because you know full well that they're going to say, you're too far right for me, Senator. It just doesn't fit. And you've got to get those Democrats and those midpointers, if you will, to vote for you.
Well, you know, it's interesting. You're right. The mainstream media will howl at any Republican, whoever the nominee is, and they'll do everything they can to characterize whoever the Republican is as extreme.
And Ted Cruz believes that no matter what they say about him, no matter how extreme they are, and of course he goes after what he considers to be that left-wing media, he says no matter what, he can convince people to vote for him. More of our exclusive one-on-one with Republican presidential candidate Ted Cruz when we continue right here on MidPoint. All right, now there is one simple question everybody would like to ask Ted Cruz. It's the one we posed in our exclusive one-on-one. Very simply put, why are you running for president?
I'll tell you why Heidi and I decided to run. We spent probably 6-9 months thinking about it, praying about it. And as I surveyed the field, as I looked to the other candidates, there are a lot of people I like, I respect, who are running. People are friends of mine. But I don't see a whole lot of candidates who I think are likely to mobilize or energize the millions of conservatives who've been staying home. And if we don't bring those voters back, we lose. If we nominate another candidate in the mold of a Bob Dole or a John McCain or a Mitt Romney, and all three are good, honorable, decent men, they're heroes, but what they did didn't work. And if we do it again, the same voters who stayed home in 08 and 12 will stay home in 16, and Hillary Clinton will be the next president. I got to say, there may be no politician in America who more represents that corruption of Washington than Hillary Clinton.
That's my next point. Is Hillary Clinton the most dangerous thing that could happen to America in 2016?
If Hillary Clinton is elected president, it will in effect be a third term for Barack Obama. And the policies, the Obama-Clinton policies, they don't work. The Obama economy is a disaster. Millions of people are hurting. We have the lowest labor force participation since 1978. Median wages have stagnated. They're the same as they were in 1996. You look at African-American teenagers, you've got African-American teenage unemployment nearly 40%. The Obama economy is a disaster, and the people who are hurt the most are those who are struggling to climb the economic ladder. Obamacare has cost millions of Americans their jobs, forced them into part-time work, and cost them their health care and their doctor. It's not working, and people are ready to turn the page.
Then is Hillary Clinton just pulling the wool over everybody's eyes? Because quite frankly, people say no matter what you say, no matter what anybody says, you can bring up Benghazi, you can bring up emails, people will vote for her regardless. You can't change their mind.
Well, you know, it's interesting, you know, just sitting here, I didn't bring up Benghazi or emails. I brought up her record. Her record is a disaster. It doesn't work. Domestically, millions of people are hurting. And then if you look abroad, the Obama-Clinton foreign policy is a manifest disaster. Our friends and allies don't trust us, and our enemies are stronger, more aggressive, and far more dangerous. And it has been leading from behind doesn't work. Weakness is provocative. You know, in Hillary Clinton's latest book, she says that she thinks the Russia reset was her single greatest foreign policy success. Now, I got to tell you, I'm actually inclined to agree with her. But that's
a low standard to be setting there.
Well, it is, and you know, I suspect the people of Ukraine might have a pretty different view on how successful this Russian reset's been, with Putin aggressive and on the march. You look at ISIS and radical Islamic terrorism. ISIS, not too long ago, Obama dismissed them as the junior varsity. They are now crucifying Christians, beheading Christians, and we have an administration with this bizarre political correctness. They will not even utter the words radical Islamic terrorism. We won't defeat radical Islamic terrorism until we're willing to acknowledge what it is we're fighting. And then the single biggest foreign policy threat facing this country is the threat of a nuclear Iran. And this deal that President Obama is negotiating with Iran is, I believe, we are hearing echoes of Munich in 1938. I think what we're doing is we're repeating the mistakes of the 1990s and the Clinton administration, where the Clinton administration led the world relaxing sanctions against North Korea. Now what happened? Billions of dollars flowed into North Korea. They used that money to develop nuclear weapons. The difference is Kim Jong-il, Kim Jong-un, they're radical, they're extreme, they're unpredictable, but they're basically megalomaniacal narcissists. And both father and son understood if they ever used a nuclear weapon, that day their regime would end. The difference with Iran is you have leaders, the mullahs and Khamenei, are theocratic religious zealots who glorify death and suicide. And when you have that, ordinary cost benefit doesn't qualify. Iran, ISIS, Putin, China, every bad actor on the face of the earth has taken the measure of the man. And they've determined that President Obama presents no credible deterrence. I think the next 20 months are going to be extraordinarily dangerous because in the next 20 months, the only limit of every bad actor, it's like Lord of the Flies, is the length of their own strength. But I'll tell you the good news. There are some things that take a lot of time to turn around. There are other things that in January 2017 can turn around like that.
Ted Cruz is absolutely convinced that he has what it takes to be president. We will find out in the next 19 months or less. Next up here on MidPoint, infighting amongst the terrorists. And would a plane ticket be a simple way to start solving one part of the homegrown terrorism issue right here in America? Let's open the doors for the arena on a Wednesday. Perfect midday right here on MidPoint.